Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So before I run through everything here, let me just say a couple things about my plans for the website. So, I added this star chart here, and this was really more of like kind of a test to see what I could put on here without having to rely on some sort of back end. Again, keeping everything on this website pretty simple and available without any super complicated coding or anything. So all these positions here are computed client side using something called Astronomy Engine. And so, this seemed to work pretty well for what it's doing. And, this kind of opens up the doors for many other things to do here when it comes to things similar to this. So I'm starting to get some ambition going over here, and I want to have a more kind of comprehensive, more scientific kind of astronomy chart for things like this, and then potentially down the line even try to come up with some sort of star maps regarding potential pole shift events. So there's multiple different theories regarding that, and different people have different kind of insights regarding that. But I could potentially come up with some different star maps that relate to different pole positions. So that is kind of where the direction this is leading here. So this was really kind of like a test to see what the possibilities are by doing this. So that's kind of what I'm thinking going forward with that. But anyways, let's take a look at what we got going on here. So on the space weather side, we did have a M2 class flare go off here on the sun, right here in the active region that's facing us here, pretty much the only region that has any potential right now. So it looks like that coronal mass ejection is going to be hitting Earth here in the next few days here on the Enlil spiral. Looks like sometime around the 19th is looking like when it could hit us. So we'll just kind of have our eyes on that. Nothing too crazy. It was still, mostly small flare. But with that here, let's take a look at the earthquakes. So, this is where, with everything going on that I'm trying to do here, I'm really in this phase of just observation and learning things. And that also plays into these articles that I'm putting on here. So most of these, Ben himself has talked about and linked in his videos here. And if you take a look at the two down here I have for earthquakes, now these are pretty good. So one of them is talking about olivine, which is an abundant mineral found in the upper mantle. And this other one is talking about pre-seismic signals regarding the geomagnetic field. So put together, these start to give a little bit of a better idea of how earthquakes can propagate, and how they can be predicted, and how solar and cosmic rays can also influence these things. So again, I'm still kind of in that stage where I can grasp the kind of entry-level concepts for these things, but I don't quite have the level of understanding to, confidently talk about them or apply them yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just still observing a lot of things that are happening. But what we see going on seismically here, so we did have we had a 4 striking off the coast, and, potentially resulting from a lot of the activity going on up here. And kind of putting Dutch's methods to the test here. We got a 4 down here as well. And, it seems likely that we can kind of look at the middle points here and potentially expect some similar level activity down here closer to LA. So, potentially you could see a 4 going on down there. But, again, we see a lot of the same stuff going on here. And just some of the other observations that I've seen here. So looking at the tremor map, this is going to be looking at the entire month so far. So last 16 days of slow slip activity. So we've had some up here in Vancouver, some over here by Seattle, and then the most of it kind of goes down here into Northern California. So even though it's been pretty sparse on the activity here, taking it back to the last 16 days, we do have quite a few slow slip events. And then the other two observations is, again, some of these oddly reported earthquakes. So looking up here by Alaska, but actually like inside the border of Canada, more specifically, all these earthquakes here seem to be reported as happening in Alaska, kind of similar to how we see all of these earthquakes down here in Texas being reported as New Mexico. So just a little bit of funny business going on there as usual. But again, I'm really just kind of observing things and getting a grasp on how these functions can relate to each other, especially with the space weather and all that. So we did see, so the X-ray flux went off when that flare happened, and it seems like it happened over here in South America. And when we're talking about solar influence on earthquakes and whatnot, at least to my current understanding, there seems to be two main times when that influence can happen. So we have the initial X-ray flux, which penetrates the atmosphere and can potentially excite some of these piezoelectric crystals. And then we also have when the flare actually strikes, and then we see disturbances in the ionosphere and the magnetic field itself. So those are the kind of two main opportunities for space weather to influence these things. And then we also have cosmic rays, which, when the magnetic field weakens, then that also gives a chance for cosmic rays from deep space to influence things on the Earth. So, again, I'm just kind of spitting things out here, but, looking at the volcanoes for today, just kind of looking at this right now, and I don't think there's been anything major going on, but just going to take a look through this list here really quickly. So, there was actually something. So over here on X, you can see that volcano in France, and it has, officially reached the ocean or the sea. So that keeps ongoing with its lava stream there. But other than that, it doesn't look like there was really a whole lot of other major events here. Again, some of the same volcanoes that have been going off. So we got Can Leon, we got Semeru and other places in Indonesia, Fuego, but nothing too crazy there. And then if we want to kind of loop that back here to the earthquakes here, looking at the Italy map. So we've actually had two new deep earthquakes striking Italy here. One's a 3.3, the other's a 3.8, and they're both 300 kilometers deep. So this is the exact kind of thing that I've really been looking out for, especially resulting from the deep 6 that happened in the same region. So it's been a full week since that has happened. And in fact, yeah, okay, there it is. So we've had the deep 6 that happened over here exactly a week ago, pretty much. And we haven't had anything too major following it. But now we have some more deep earthquakes going on over here. So again, just going to keep an eye on it here. And we've got some slight tremors going on at pretty much each of the volcanic locations around here. Mount Vesuvius, Campi Flegrei. But no major swarms, so that's at least good. But again, this is going to be a pretty hot topic here. Just kind of observing what happens within these magma chambers for the time being. But other than that, things have been pretty quiet for the most part. But we are approaching April, where we will be having the Ryger uptick cycle for the sun, as well as a sun-diving comet. It could be a sun-grazing comet, but it seems more likely that it could actually just dive right into the sun. So that is going to be probably the next major watch period to look out for solar activity. which could again influence everything else here. And just one last little tidbit here, looking at the earthquakes in the Canada feed. So yesterday I looked on here and they clearly did not report anything past the 13th. Now magically all of a sudden all these earthquakes show up on the feed from the 14th, 15th, going into today. And again, their magnitude measurements here are a little bit strange. Pretty sure they're the only people right now that have their magnitudes listed with all these different names here, whatever measurements. So anyways, I'll just keep doing my thing. So I think that'll pretty much wrap things up for today. So anyways, hope you enjoyed. Come and visit the website to see some of these things for yourself. And, go ahead and like and subscribe for more. Share this video, it really helps. And I'll catch you all in the next.